Good morning, everyone. This is Mr. Barth again. This is day 2 of order of operations. We're going to try to involve these expressions with some negative numbers now. Okay, so I have a couple examples here. Let's go through these. All right, so letter A. All right, so I'm going to write PEMDAS down the side of my paper here so I don't forget. You might want to do the same. All right, so I have no parentheses, I have no exponents, and I have only multiplications and divisions, so I can just go from left to right. All right, so my first division, I'm going to do 12 divided by -2. That's -6. Now, if you're having a hard time remembering your division rules and your multiplication rules, they can be easily referenced if you make this little chart. I think you've already seen. Okay, and this top row tells us that a positive divided by a negative is a negative. That's how I got that. Positive divided by a negative is a negative. And I'm going to bring down my other numbers. And -6 times 6 is -36. And again, I can reference this row right here. A negative, that's the -6, times a positive equals a negative. And I am done. Next one. All right, I have no parentheses. I have no exponents. I do have one multiplication, so I'm going to do that first. A negative times a positive is a negative. That's -10 plus -10. And now I have to add. When I add two numbers with the same sign, I add them, and I keep the sign. Final answer, -20. All right, C, parentheses. Okay, so I have a parentheses here, but there's nothing to simplify inside it. And the P in PEMDAS refers to simplifying inside parentheses or grouping symbols. Okay, so I have nothing to do here. I do, however, have an exponent, so I'm going to do that. 5 to the second power is 25. Okay, I'm going to bring down everything else. And I have no multiplications or divisions. I have only a subtraction, which of course we are going to change into an addition. Subtracting is adding the opposite, so I'm going to change this to 25 plus +7. 25 plus 7 is 32, and I'm done. Okay, all right. Parentheses, again, I have nothing to do here. There's nothing inside that I can actually do with this. There's nothing to simplify inside the parentheses. So I'm going to move on to my next step. That's the exponents. Well, 3 squared, that's the same as 3 times 3, so this is 9. So I have -7 minus 9, and again, I'm going to change this over to addition. So keep this, change to addition, flip this to the other side. And -7 plus -9, I'm using the same rule. If the signs are the same, I add them. 9 plus 7 is 16, and I keep the sign. And I'm done. Letter E. All right, my parentheses, 3 minus 8. Well, that's the same as 3 plus -8. So I'm going to do that inside here. 3 plus -8. And when I add these two, one's positive, one's negative, so I have to subtract. 8 minus 3 is 5, and I keep the sign of the larger absolute value. That's -5. And then I bring everything else down. I'm done with my parentheses. Now I'm going to go on to my exponents. That's second in PEMDAS. 2 squared, the same as 2 times 2, so I'm going to make it 2 times 2 is 4. Bring everything else down. I only have a multiplication left, and a negative times a positive, according to my chart, is negative. So -20 is my final answer. All right, on today's assignment, you're going to see ones that start to get a little bit more complicated. So we're going to stick with the same plan, though. Stick with our PEMDAS. Use our multiplication rules. And division rules, for that matter. All right, and stay organized. And make our little pizza shape as we move down. Parentheses, inside the parentheses here. I have to follow the order of operations. So I can't add before I multiply. So I'm going to multiply first. 1 times negative 6, well, positive times a negative is a negative. Bring everything else down. And when I'm adding a positive and negative, I have to subtract. So 6 minus 5 is 1, and I keep the sign of the larger absolute value. And I bring everything else down here. I should have brought that down here. Sorry about that. Now I'm dividing. Negative 5 divided by negative 1. Well, a negative, my chart here says negative divided by negative is a positive. So negative divided by negative is a positive, and I'm done. All right. Follow along again. Inside the parentheses first. Okay, and I have to multiply before I add. So I'm going to multiply here. 6 times negative 6, positive times a negative is a negative. Bring everything else down. All right, I'm adding a positive and negative. I have to subtract. So I might want to come to the side and do a little bit of side work. 36 minus 8 is 28. And I'm going to make that negative 28 because the negative 36 is larger. Bring everything else down. I only have a division left. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. So 7 is my final answer. All right, and last one down here. I have no parentheses, no exponents, and only one multiplication or division. So I'm going to do that first. So 9 divided by negative 1, a positive divided by a negative is a negative 9, and I'm going to bring everything else down in a nice, orderly fashion. Okay, now I have all additions and subtractions, so I can just go from left to right. Negative 8 plus negative 2, signs are the same, so I add them, keep the sign, bring everything else down. I have a subtraction here, so I might want to do my keep change flip here and change this into an addition. I have negative 10 plus positive 9. Now I have an addition problem where both of the signs are different, so I'm going to subtract. 10 minus 9 is 1, and I'm going to keep the sign of the larger absolute value. So negative 1. All right, I got one more for you. This might look a little scary, but we're going to do it anyway. Oh my gosh. All right, well, let's get organized. Are there any parentheses? Yes, there are a lot of parentheses. All right, so we're going to do the most inner ones first. Okay, so 4, these inner parentheses are the most inside ones. So I'm going to do my keep, change, flip. So inside there, that's a 10. I'm going to bring everything else down in a nice, orderly fashion. Now this may seem like a pain, but this is how you keep from making mistakes. You may notice I took out the parentheses here. I don't need that in there because there's nothing to be done inside here. Okay? Likewise, I could have eliminated these two parentheses because the only reason the parentheses are there is to separate the negative away so there's no confusion. Okay? I'm still doing parentheses. I'm still on my P step. Okay? Negative 9 plus 7. I'm adding a positive and a negative number. Okay? So I'm going to subtract. 9 minus 7 is 2, and I'm going to keep the sign of the larger. Okay? I'm going to keep those there because I have an exponent on the outside. And I can do these parentheses at the same time on the same step because they're not involved. They're not within these or embedded or nested. All right, 10 times 2 is 20. Okay, and notice I got rid of the parentheses there because there's nothing else to do inside there. Okay, now, inside all the parentheses is simplified. So my P or parentheses step is done. Okay, so I'm going to move on to exponents. Exponents. This is negative 2 to the third power. So this means I'm taking the negative 2, I'm using 3 groups of negative 2, and I'm multiplying. In other words, that's this. Negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. All right? Well, if I do negative 2 times negative 2, and negative times negative is a positive, that's 4. and 4 times negative 2, that's a positive times a negative, that's a negative, so this is negative 8. So I got negative 8 times negative 5 divided by 20. All right, now I'm all down to multiplications and divisions. I don't even have any additions or subtractions, so I can just go from left to right. Negative times a negative, that's a positive, divided by 20, and 40 divided by 20 is 2. Now please note, on all these, I got this nice, organized pizza shape. I did it on all of these. If you look back, nice and organized. I even did it on these short ones. Okay, if you do that, you're going to stay organized, and it's going to help you have greater accuracy. Thanks for watching. Good luck with the assignment.